Oh, is it?
Let's just call them Dark Mage and Light Mage. Welcome, Woods, to identify which mage is which and from which Final Fantasy.
Yeah. And then Link. Notice I didn't say
How did he do?
Zelda.
How many did he get?
Two more.
And then I can't even tell what the hell that is.
That's clearly the Dig Dug man and the Dig Dug.
Oh,
monster.
yeah. Oh, fair enough.
Well, there we are.
We can now start the show.
Hello and welcome back to Let's Thrown Out. Tonight you're joined by the man with the moustache, Stephen, in a new location.
Hello, everyone. Doing a bit of house sitting this week, so remote broadcast.
Yep. So if you want to rob his other house, feel free. He's not there. Maybe someone is. Who knows? Everyone's favourite Koken.
Hello, I'm in the normal place, but Jack has just complained that the background isn't the same and he misses it.
It upsets me.
I had to, this is how bad it got. Just to fit that shelf on, I had to take the wings off the Bixler.
Oh no!
The wings are over there.
Destroying everything.
It's taking everything away. But look, Star Wars fans, the Star Wars Millennium Falcon now has pride of place on the shelf, and the camera's going to do its own thing.
That's good to know.
And I'm bright until I fly, and I'm so sorry if you can hear the washing machine.
Why isn't the Millennium Falcon flying? That's what I want to know.
Because it weighs about 20 kilograms and is really sketchy to get up there and put it on a stand. It was frightening.
Think how much easier it would be if you could fly it up there.
That would be easier. It would need some big motors.
Just be like knife edge and on the wall.
It's not like you could string it up either, because obviously it's Lego. It all comes apart.
You have to lift it up in a certain way under certain bits, like this. And I had to lift it up, get Pippa to take two of the legs off, and then sort of guide me onto this stand, which I had to then lift on that shelf.
Oh, I have to thank Numbskull because I finally got some new solder. I take his recommendation for, I think this is Wharton Metals Auto Sol. So I've got the largest amount of solder I've ever bought, 1/4 kilo. I got tired of buying 100 grams at a time.
Yeah, what's the normal little roll? Is that 100?
25 or 100? You can get 25s as well.
Yeah, I'm more of a whole kg kind of guy. 750 minimum.
Something you can really drop and properly break one of your models with. That's what you're about, Jack, isn't it?
Break your toy, yeah.
Yeah, you want to take that and drop it on a PlayStation or a flight controller or something, just properly screw it up.
Many of time have.
Does it come on the same roll as buying printer filament for 1 kilogram?
Yeah.
No, but
just have it on the wall and
bitch.
Just a bit of soldering. There we go.
Exactly. With a little automated feeder, you just press a button, it goes.
You just have it descend from above. Start. Yeah, well, off we go.
Stephen, I hear that you're out and flying in Abergavenny.
Yeah, out near the Welsh borders here, near Abergavenny. I've done a bit of flying, got out around the garden, messing around with the O3 system at last, and kind of enjoying that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Are you still having to keep them separate as well? Are you still keeping your V1 goggles for the other stuff? So you'd have to rebind and all that.
Yeah, I've just been using a set of V2 goggles that I got purely for this to kind of experiment. And the range is nice. I have kind of pushed it to the point where it was threatening to give out on me because that's what you do the first time you get one of these systems. It definitely does better than the V1 stuff, the Vista and so forth. The camera footage is pretty good. It's difficult to kind of get that white balance to stay consistent. That's the thing that gets me. And the image is quite soft, which is difficult to fly with. You will often admire the beautiful, impressive cinema vibe you're getting off all that lush greenery without realizing that you're about to kind of hit a few leaves. because you don't have a lot of the sharpening that you get with other systems. I've flown it back to back with a walk snail. Had a bit of a flyaway with the walk snail. Had to go getting garden implements and yoinking things out of bushes. So I've been building again. So I built a little doodah here. You solo me there. So I got this Quad 66 design, which is a 3-inch, very lightweight frame. You can see it's got quite thin arms, but I got a 4mm thick version of this. And instead of buying the exact motors, which were like, he wanted 1104s or 1204s, I think. I had some Sunny Sky R1106, and they're a bit punchy. And yeah, I've got this with the Sky Stars all-in-one and the Walk Snail 1S board. And
back when those motors came out, they were on the limits of what ESCs could do.
Yeah. I set fire. The last time I had these in a quad, the quad caught fire. So that's what happened last time. So it was always going to be interesting. But, I think Sky Stars are doing a good job here, and it did not catch fire. It coped pretty well, even though the frame was so light, it kind of did a bit of a flyaway and tried to make it off to the moon. So I figured out eventually I just needed way less D-term, and I got it to behave itself, and flies really nicely.
So was this literally, it was just trying to right itself and had a bit of a wobble and just kept increasing the throttle and just went wee?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the classic situation. Yeah, just go like some kind of video game noise. It's just gone, and you're like, disarm, disarm, disarm. But by that point, it's already kind of, 5-6
little runaway.
Yeah. So I had to put the D-term down to like 0.6, so 60% of the normal D-term value, and then it was happy, and it still had like no issues with prop wash. It's still going like a rocket. So yeah, it's fine.
So you said you compared the 03 to the Walk Snail because you're saying you were liking the Walk Snail. How do the two compare?
Well, 03 is it's definitely a cinematographer's product, right? The camera, you look at the shades of green and they're very true to life, whereas Walk Snail,
feel the grass.
Yeah, Walk Snail's a bit more like, imagine the shades of green that are used in Sonic the Hedgehog. That's kind of what you're seeing with Walk Snail. Everything is a bright emerald, jade, and vivid, maxed out. You have to kind of turn the color down to like 3 out of 10 to get anything that looks like normal foliage. But you get that situation where you're flying in the sun and you've got some trees you want to fly under. You can see the shadows under the trees and kind of see what's going on there at the same time as seeing the bright sun. Whereas with DJI, it's like, oh, it's a beautiful kind of cinema landscape. And I recorded at whatever it is, Cine D or whatever it is, the special kind of high wide color range. And the footage looks fantastic, but quite difficult to see into shadows. So that's quite difficult to fly into the shadows. When you're in the shadows, the auto white balance kicks in, but you've got that moment where you've got to go into the pitch black for a half second before it kicks in and lets you know what's going on. Whereas I think Walk Snail's a bit better at giving you a bit of a heads up, and it starts to pull up those darks and render them as normal colors a little bit earlier, which might be artificial, but makes it much easier to fly.
Old school CMOS squeaky bum time for anyone who's been for very long in this game. The old CMOS cameras were terrible, especially the fat shark ones, where you just fly in underneath a sort of canopy and then just be like, I just hope I don't hit anything.
Or you dare to fly near sunset when the sun was low in the sky, and all you had was darkness, like a black void below you, saying, I wonder what's down there. Don't know. Flying around, see what happens.
Oh
come on, Bob. Bob, come over here. This is Bob. Bob making a presence now. So this is Bob.
Hello, Bob.
Bob is my little schnauzer who says waffle up. Waffles. Waffles.
It is. It's really sweet that you've even given Bob a yellow collar to match your yellow jacket.
Well, obviously, I mean, got to get a look, haven't you? Got to be
You're
coordinated.
going to grow out the mustache as well.
Oh, she's doing pretty well. She's gone. Obviously, being a schnauzer, she has a walrus mustache, and I have a handlebar mustache. So we're distinct. We have our own style.
Encroaching. That was funny.
But yeah, the DJI stuff was good, and I've been experimenting a lot more with gyroflow. And contrary to Curry's kind of doom-laden predictions on gyroflow, trying it with all the Chinesium cameras, it works really well with O3. It actually told me not to do auto sync points. It like gave me a slap on the wrist and said, "No, the footage is already automatically synced. You don't need to calculate sync points." And I was like, okay, if you say so." And I pressed go, and I was rewarded with a like buttery smooth rendition, which I showed last week. And everything was great when I was at home, and I had my NVIDIA card. Got a 2080 Ti, which is like 5 years old now, but it's a proper desktop card, and it could do that at 70 odd frames a second. Whereas out here on a laptop, I've got a relatively new laptop, and it says, "Oh, Intel graphics work with gyroflow," and I was like, "Okay, great, awesome. I'm probably going to get like 20 frames a second, maybe." No, 1.8 to 2 frames a second. It peaked at 2.5, I think, when I stopped doing anything else. It's 8 hours to render about 5 minutes of video. It's not what you want, not at all.
Oh God, sit and forget
Mm.
and pray that it completes. Oh my
You fly
word.
one pack and you have to let it render overnight. Yeah,
That's bad.
fun times.
But it's getting
Oh, I mean-
good. I was well impressed with the O3. I mean, admittedly, I got to look through like the new goggles, you know, with the like individual like diopters and stuff, and like it did mess with my motion sickness on like how good it was flying HD. Definitely.
Oh, what? So you got some sickness because it was like more true to life almost.
Yeah.
Got some inner ear.
You know, because they say, I don't know how true it is, but they say like motion sickness is a conflict between your eyes and your ears and brain, saying, you know, like, are you moving or aren't you?
What
It's like
I
having
have seen
cognitive
from
dissonance.
other people's footage of the O3 is there is a bit of warping in how it revolves around and stuff, and I don't know if maybe that can set off a couple of people more than other cameras I've seen.
There's a bit of lens distortion, you're right. I think you can clear it up in the recorded footage, but in the FPV, it is a little bit annoying. You get that sort of, you turn past something and suddenly it like really slows down because it's stretched out horizontally in the corners of the screen.
I mean, that's the price to pay for ultra wide angle, I suppose. But you can have, I mean, very expensive lenses get rid of that distortion to a certain amount, and very cheap ones are really, really bad.
The one thing I didn't realize I'd miss until I tried to use it was the ability to put my own fonts. Because for a while on the WTF OS and on Walksnail and more recently HD0 as well, I've been able to put the font packs on, and you can have the same look and feel, and you can put in a font that's got like a colored battery indicator. So when it's full, it's green, and it's halfway down, it goes orange, and when it's near empty, it goes red. And DJI, being DJI, they don't want any truck with anyone else doing their user interface. So they just give you like block capitals, and it's kind of, it doesn't look great. The style of the OSD text and everything looks a little bit off. It's not, I don't know. It's like they've done as DJI do, they did the minimum they could to check the box, and it's just kind of a bit, it's where the premium feel, I think, could be accentuated by allowing people to put OSD fonts on themselves rather than just have really basic looking fonts.
So why aren't these ones WTF OS like your other ones? Is that a restriction on the O3 or
There's no
something?
exploit. And I'm flying 16:9. I have no truck with 4:3, I'm afraid. I'm going to record 16:9, so I'm going to fly it. So That's my outlook. Yeah, no hack yet. And if there is one, they don't want to burn it until they're certain that DJI aren't going to bother to fix it, because that's pretty much what happened with the original goggles. It got to a stage of firmware maturity where it was clear that there were no more tricks to be pulled out of the bag, and then they could go in and crack it without worrying about DJI withholding one important feature that would force people to upgrade to a version that they then wouldn't be able to crack. So I think that's kind of where they are crack-wise. It'll probably happen, but I don't know if I'm going to buy many of these. They're very expensive units, and they're very, very, very big and very, very heavy. I put it in a 3.5 inch, and without decasing that thing, I don't think it's ever going to be sub 250. It's just a chunker. And even if you take the casing off, you go down from something like 26 grams to like just under 20. Even with all the metal casing off, it's still like a 20-gram VTX, basically. And you can strip it right down, but then you lose things like the SD card slot. Yeah. And if you lose the SD card slot, then when you try and copy stuff off the internal memory, you need a fan on it because there's nowhere for the heat to go. So it just becomes this problem to actually use it to record anything at that point. Yeah, I'll see. It was an interesting experiment.
Yeah, Tailspin. I wasn't too sure what I was flying in. What mode, 4x3 or whatnot. On my normal analog stuff, yeah, it's all 4x3. But
are your goggles 4.3?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, they're HD V3 cores. I think so.
I think the Fat Sharks are all 4.3.
Yeah.
I've got the very old Dominator V3s, which are 16.9s.
Yeah, I put up with those for a bit, but then after a while, I really did hate them because there's just not enough real estate up and down. I found
it was
really
a little bit
quite
dicey.
difficult to fly through.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of get the nose down a bit, and that was a bit dicey. It's the one time I haven't had a problem with the previous DJI system, but this one, I don't know if it's more zoomed in or something, but yeah, I didn't feel I could get that much speed on it. I was flying very cautiously today.
How the stock of like the V1 stuff and like the Cadex air units, because obviously Cadex aren't making them anymore. Like, is Runcam fully taken over?
Not a clue. I think there's a Cadex version of that big square silver DJI camera that they're doing. As far as I know, there's still air units coming out from Runcam. They're still out in the stores, and there's going to be a big second-hand market, I'm sure, because they're pretty hard to actually kill. So there'll be a lot of people that upgrade to another system and they find their way onto the market.
I know. I did see old Numbskull in the chat. He, I believe, sent some in to repair. Yeah.
This is always the only worry with DJI, isn't it? It's like they're very much out to suit themselves in what they do, rather than giving us a real sort of roadmap about what's going on and what they're going to bring in and how they're going to help you. It's just we do what we like, thanks, and you'll buy it.
Yep.
And we'll cut you off if you do something we don't like.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of being basically a monopoly. And that's why we see legislation coming from America trying to ban DJI so they can give their homegrown alternatives a shot at actually selling something, which they can't really do if DJI is in the marketplace. If you're going to buy it,
sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're going to buy a consumer drone, it's not really a decision, is it? You're going to buy a floating camera platform unless you're going for something extremely high-end and professional. It's going to be DJI.
I was just going to say, wasn't there an actual new DJI release this week? Was it the Air 3 or something?
Air 4, I thought, wasn't it?
Was it the 4?
I
There were a bunch
I
of
think it
videos
was
that
a
appeared.
3,
I haven't
isn't it?
actually watched any.
I know they said it was going to be the system that might make it into the O4. Maybe I'm confusing that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Uh,
It's OcuSync 4, isn't it? That's what's happened.
Air 3. If I'd have been more on a case, I'd have been checking out if there are any crashes yet, so we could bring new DJI drone releases. Let's look at the crashes, because some idiot manages to fly into the post or water or something, despite all the technology to make you not do that. They somehow manage it.
yeah,
I guess the likes of Madstech would know everything about that, but I haven't seen a ton of coverage. And from where I'm standing, it looks like we've got to that point in the maturity of the DJI equipment where it's not innovative, it's just iterative, you know. It's a small spec bump, but not game-changing anymore.
I think they put this to the test. Old Kai from Digital Rev TV, who used to be a part of.
Like Branch is a bit better than.
But yeah, I mean they are looking. I mean the Mavic Pro is looking very beefy now, and then the Air is starting to get pretty slim,
This.
which is quite interesting.
They're still very, very similar setup, though, aren't they? I mean, there's no major changes in the layout of components. They're just slowly shrinking components from version to version. It looks like they've got the same motors on still as well.
Yeah, it's good. This is the only thing I've really seen on it. I mean, this is the time when you kind of like miss Cole, like, you know, because he kind of really sort of like stayed up with that sort of stuff. I didn't. How's Curry? I watched your video of Times Are Changing, and am I right in thinking you're moving away from like the quad sort of stuff?
No, not necessarily. I was trying to move away from just doing reviews. In fact, trying to turn down reviews because they take up time, whereas I wanted to do more interesting projects and, in fact, like fly things again. For example, like the walk snail stuff that I put in that 7-inch quad, I haven't had time to install it, reinstall it and refly it and stuff. So it was a case of trying not to do so many reviews, leave time to do more interesting projects, and actually go out and sort of, you know, fly the stuff and for some fun times, really. Which hasn't worked so well, because as soon as I got back from holiday, I had a pile of stuff on the floor that came through the door. So there's like a weird drift car video yesterday. Tomorrow there'll be a charge video, and then a couple things to come next week. But if I can clear it all next week, then I can get on with the larger projects and actually going ahead and installing things in planes I wanted and doing some fun stuff which isn't related to trying to, you know, say here's my affiliate link and that sort of thing.
A review's kind of like a treadmill. It sounds like once you get going, you just get more and more of them, and then you can't stop.
Yeah, to a point, because as I said in that video, one of the problems about if you want people to watch your videos on YouTube, it's the YouTube algorithm, which nobody really knows how it works, but it seems to rely on you producing regular content. And if you're not producing regular content, they're like, this guy's done it. So you're always sort of like, oh yeah, I can get this in and I can do a review on that and I churn this out. And yeah, you do end up on a somewhat of a treadmill and getting more and more stuff in. So I've done reasonably well at turning down some stuff, and then, you know, some stuff I also got offered. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. We'll have to have a look at that. Oh, Richard Warwick's trying to out me, saying Curry Kitten has a secret Radio Master product apparently. Yeah, it there might be another radio from Radio Master, but that's kind of like saying, you know, Ford are also working on a new car.
Are you saying they're making radios now? Who would believe it?
Who could believe it? I think the 31st is the date for when you will see your YouTube feeds suddenly blow up with lots of things
Ooh.
from Radio Master potentially. I can't remember. My one won't be ready by then because I haven't flown anything.
Oh, looking forward to seeing what that's about. It does seem that they're kind of honing in on a formula. They've gone
Yes,
big,
and
they've gone small, and they're kind of, it's like they're searching for the right size.
a Radio Master radar review is a little bit like there's a new DJI quad. There's no big innovations. It's kind of like we've had a different form factor idea. In it, you can still have ELRS, and you don't need to talk about that anymore. And it still has HTX on there, and it still has nice gimbals and things like that. So it's all the same, apart from it might look slightly different.
Bright colors. They put a bunch on the website with neon colors. I was almost tempted to go and spend ludicrous money on them, but I reined that in.
I didn't notice if they had a yellow one.
Oh yeah, of course they have a yellow one. They know my
I
weakness.
I might have something to do with orange. You never know.
Interesting. Yeah, I think they were on Instagram a while ago, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Jack. But yeah, it's still no. I'm not really moving away from quads. I mean, I want to do some other building projects that might not involve quads, but I also want to do things like, can I take this old DJI 450 and acro it, and what happens if I upgrade things from an old wooden tricopter? What happens if I fly upside down? Then will that work? Just things
Fun
to
stuff.
smash stuff up, really fun stuff.
Fly things
For
more
no
than
for no
once.
reason.
Because it kind of sucks if you're told to review something and you're like, oh yeah, now I will fly 3 packs on this, and here it is, and I put it on the shelf. It's not fun. I found it a little bit exhausting having to validate hardware because I'm doing a bit of, does this board target work and things, and solder things up, desolder them, solder something else up, desolder them, solder things. And it's like, can I just go and fly something without just soldering things up for 1 or 2 packs of testing? It would just be really nice just to go fly. I have to kind of like, I will help, but with that, I'm just going to keep it to an amount that's not going to stop the rest of it being fun.
That giant glider, I really want to know the ending of that. Did the repair work?
It has been repaired. I've put the tail back on properly because apparently it wasn't fixed on. Nobody told me. I thought it was fixed. If people don't know, this is a humongous glider, and I had to do lots of building and parts to do with it, and I had to drill through this carbon fiber tube in order to attach it to the main body. But the guy that gave me it, I thought the tail was fixed on, but it wasn't. So we were flying it in the maiden. Halfway through, if you imagine the wings are like this, and suddenly we see the tails going like this, and it's moving on its own. And then he offered to land it for me because he is a much better line of sight pilot than me. I was actually flying at FPV, and it was absolutely fine. And he's like, I'll bring it down line of sight, and he smashed it into the ground. But I mean, it was his plane, it was his design and stuff. But it broke a whole lot, and I got some like carbon fiber, the sort of woven sheet, and stuck that in with the gubbins, and it's really strong now. And I put it all back together, but I do need to put in a new camera mount for it because I wasn't happy with that. But yeah, it can be flown again. I just need quite a large place to do it because it's absolutely humongous. Just putting it together in the field takes ages.
I'm sure Jack's going to be.
There will be an ending to it.
With all this space around here, I didn't bring my Atom RC plane up here, the flying fish, which I probably should have.
That's a shame.
I decided that I'd got too much. I got 4 bags of quad kit in the car already because I had to do some soldering while I was up here to get things in the air. But I will try it at some point because I keep seeing people give glowing reviews to all the Atom RC stuff, so I feel like I really should give them a good shake one day.
Give it a try. There's definitely lots of room there. I recommend, because if you're on Abergavenny, then you can get over quite close to Hay on Wye, where there's this place called Hay Bluff, which is this.
Yeah, it's just down the road.
Basically a mountain, and I used to go ride my dirt bike up there all the time because there was so much space. There was just mountains and fields which nobody seems to own, and sheep roaming around and stuff like that. So loads of space there.
Do you want me to unmod myself so that someone could put me in timeout? There's apparently
Why
people
so?
getting upset with the.
Oh, what have you done?
Oh, Chris G's here.
What? Wow. Gee.
Nostum, or I don't know how you pronounce that name, but that's Chris G. And I'm like, Chris motherfucking G. Chris G. Sorry.
Just to
when-
take that soul
so over
send
the
it
moon
down
that
onto your G
episode.
key.
Yeah, when I went out with Chris G and Frank flew his, and it was fun. So,
And what's that in his profile image? Looks suspiciously like an ancient tricopter.
T-copter.
That's definitely a T rather than your traditional tri.
Yeah.
Guess it's easier to nail together out of old planks that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's two
well-
pieces of wood rather than 3.
I do miss David. Like, I was watching, I randomly come across a video, and the thing is, I wanted to kind of like bring it to you guys, but there was like everything wrong with the RC hobby, and there was this guy who kind of like, let me try and find it. But I watched it, and funny enough, David did get a mention, but like,
It's like every 2 months someone releases a video of FPV is dead, everything wrong with the RC hobby. It's just because YouTube's an outlet for grumpy people, fundamentally.
This is true.
yeah, it did, it did. I don't know. It did. Is it 15?
Is it 15?
Yeah, 15 things killing the hobby. I don't know. It might be.
Are you on the list, Jack? Are you on the list?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Like less thrown out. Like literally.
Old guys on podcasts talking about tricopters are killing the hobby.
I know.
Oh, it does
No,
sound
it's
fair.
not that video.
It's interesting to notice that America is now officially, remote ID'd, and apparently nothing has changed. Surprise, surprise.
It's not until September, is it?
I thought it was. Really? Everyone's making such a stink about it.
Well, that's because they don't want to do it. I get their point of view there.
I thought some date had already passed.
Richard Warwick brings up the horrible, isn't it a C3 drone that's not applicable in the UK? I don't know. Is that the classification thing, which I'm dreading? Because
the classification system that has remained completely ignored by all drone manufacturers. We've created a classification system, and everyone was like, "Well done, that's nice for you." Moving on.
I worry because aren't we constantly getting an extension for like self-built stuff, and then as soon as that classification runs out, it's like
we'll have to register as individual factories, and it's going to be Stephen's drone shop. Output 5 drones a year.
Yeah.
This is the big glider footage. Nothing went particularly wrong in the maiden. Well, that wasn't a great takeoff, I admit that. But it's like the motor was rated for 3S, so I put a 3S battery on it, and then he's like, "Oh, you should."
Oh, that's where you went wrong, mate. You should have put a 6S on it. They're always cowards.
So I was flying FPV quite happily. This is a really early version of INAV.
EasyOSD. Oh, is it?
No, it was INAV.
Oh.
And it's actually doing all right. But that VTAL, you can kind of see it's already going slightly out like that.
L-tail now.
Yes, it was trying to give a thumbs up sort of sign. So what happened is,
was it given to you and you thought it was done and attached? Is that the biggest?
That was the big crash. This was not me. So yeah, the guy that crashed it was the designer of the plane, Crunch, And he said, "Oh, do you want to try this one out? I've got a spare one. That's in there. That's Rob. He's got a spare one." I was like, "Oh, sure." And I built it up
What's
and
the dog's
stuff.
name?
And he was there for the maiden. But it was only when we
found
would
it?
say
That's the result.
it looks like the tail's gone. He said, "Did you screw the tail in?" I'm like, "No." Was the tail not supposed to? Was that not fixed in then? But yeah, it wasn't. The damage wasn't too bad. The problem was this is all sort of molded plasticky bits, and that broke
Fiberglass,
there.
isn't it?
So it's fiberglass. So that's where I basically layered that with that carbon fiber, and that's really, really strong now. So that should be okay.
Didn't
yeah,
even destroy the battery. Like we need a conclusion to this, Curry. How much have I got to give on Patreon to get this across the line?
If you can organise me some time, that'd be useful. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a case of getting out there and getting some time. What's Hidden Valley like for flying a big thing like that? Is that any good?
Should be
Yeah,
slow,
within
isn't it?
reason.
Yeah.
I think you won't get a
It's gonna be
flight
slow,
away because
isn't it?
it'll crash in the side of the hill.
Well, he won't be flying it through a barn full of shit smeared sheep wool, so probably
No,
be
that's
okay.
my job.
Yeah, I won't be going for that. I would be going more for sort of just high soaring, happy flying around. But yeah, it's just
Can get a bit windy in the valley.
that's okay. This thing is like taller than both of us put together, I think.
Now there's an offer. Look,
who will stand on
Chris
who?
G said, "I'll fly it." What a perfect collaboration!
Every time I give it to someone else to fly, they crash it. So I think I'll just carry on flying it this time. As far as I'm concerned, I did a perfect maiden, and then I handed the radio to the expert to land it, and he put it in the deck. So
he said he'll even fly it inverted.
So one thing I was thinking about, because this plane kind of has spent so much time near my bench and not much time in the air, and everyone seems to have iNav or Arduino on planes. Should I just go all out and just freaking iNav it and not have PWM stuff?
No, because you complicate matters. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm used to complexity, guys. Like I spend all my time working with thousands of containers and Kubernetes and stuff as my day job. Like that's fine. I can do that.
It's a really simple thing. If you watch that other video where I talked about the Radio Master ERS PWM receivers, I flew a very basic tiny wingman, and it was just literally 3 channels plugged in, and I had a good old laugh with that. Absolutely nothing, no OSD whatsoever, just a picture. I just had a voice on the radio saying when the battery got low, and that was it.
I did follow that advice originally. I had a Texumo, and it didn't have iNav, and I flew it with just the servos and stuff, and that was the most I ever flew. And as soon as you do add the adding like the GPS and the flight controller and everything, with the flight controller I spend my life flying in manual, and then now and again I'll hit return to home, and in iNav we trust.
I wasn't even considering GPS. I just wanted the flight controller to have like decent OSD. That was mainly what it'd do. Just give me a decent OSD.
What would you use the OSD for?
Just put up a crosshair, battery readout. I'm not sure if I do also have a lot of GPS modules, so I might GPS it. So I've got.
It is handy to have.
You could do it, but if you're looking to sort of just start and keeping it simple, and you've got like a little plane, it's a case of like, do you really want to put all that stuff in? And clearly you do. I don't know why I'm even arguing with you, because it's like, hang on, could I over-engineer this in some way? Yes, I can. Let's do it. Stephen's in a monologue right now.
Equally, like part of me is like, Curry's right. Keeping it simple and getting the basic things, and like you feel the aircraft is the same thing as the reason why people fly.
Well, I don't want it to be too wobbly.
visceral.
I
That's
mean, that
part.
won't stop it being wobbly. That's the wind.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I'm not sure our planes are made for me, to be honest. I'm not sure, but I'll revisit sometime.
It's a wabi-sabi kind of, without getting all Japanesey because of curry being coming right from Japan. But yeah, it's simple things back in the old days, how it was made.
I mean, if I want simple
So-
things, I read a book, not do like radio control. To be fair, like it's
Yeah,
already
true.
the level of complexity is already fairly high when I've had to configure an open source firmware on my radio and a control receiver, and I've had to figure out where all these servos go and which way around the servos should push and yada yada.
We're getting into the old Let's Show now, but there is an element of is it masochistness, where if you enjoy the RC hobby, there's an element of you enjoy punching yourself in the dick because stuff doesn't work properly, and then
You
you
put your sandals
find
on just to go into the brambles.
yeah, and you find out the reason why it doesn't work is because you're an idiot.
Is that the best analogy for RC? Putting on the sandals so you can walk into brambles?
Yeah,
I think the reason we talk about keeping it simple is because if you're coming in, and obviously you're a very experienced pilot in terms of quads and stuff and can do all the electronics, but if you're coming in new to a new type of model, then I think it's good to fly it in a more rawest sense before you start putting in stuff, because it's like that will change.
We should all just disable the
stick to
gyro on our quads because we've been just treating ourselves mollycoddling.
I've always been a firm proponent of quads we should have a controller with 4 sticks. We should have 2 in our feet and 2 in our hands, and they control each motor independently, and we should do it like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if
That
you can't
sounds like a
fly like
project
that,
for me,
why should
actually.
you even do something else?
Are you going to build that rig? Frank,
I'm going to build that.
Someone, I think it was Frank, wanted me to make the mechanical gyro as well, and I was like,
Aren't
I'm
gyros
not
like
doing that.
mechanical anyway? Just on a miniature scale.
I'm not answering that.
Isn't it
I don't know
fundamentally
how it works. It's a
electromechanical
magic
device?
box.
Yeah,
It's fundamentally electromechanical because you can kill them with too much shock.
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't want
Frank
to.
would know this. Where's Frank when you need him?
Frank!
Frank! How do gyros work, Daddy?
Yes, they are. Do you want me to send you an invite link and you come on for the last 20 minutes, Chris G? As you are clearly a legend. I am so tempted, Curry, like with the whole Chris G. I would love two of my favorite people. Chris G and Curry Kitten together on a project. Oh, amazing.
What would it be?
I don't know.
A large wooden
hopefully getting
tricopter plane.
Yeah, hopefully getting that plane across the finish line would be amazing. The glider.
I just imagine
Well,
like they've finally done it. They're standing next to a craft which is jack strapped into it.
This is what one of my friends came up as an idea for a fun project. He suggested, and at this point, that the problem being you can only get one set of head tracking things. He suggested that 2 people fly a plane using FPV goggles, both using head trackers. One guy has like yaw and throttle, and the other guy has pitch and roll or something, and they both have to stand there and go like this in order to make the plane fly in some sort of cooperative mode. But as far as I know, you can only put one head tracker into
you could splice the head tracking signal with the radio.
That's only because they're connecting via DSC. If you connect via another method that's not DSC, you could have one head tracker on DSC, and you could have one on Bluetooth. Exactly. Yeah, there you are.
Stephen,
or we could in fact use 2 different radio receivers, couldn't we, and do it that way?
Yeah. Stephen, can you help me submit a bug report at some point? Because I updated, the 5-channel ELRS receivers that are PWM. I've sent you a link on Facebook, Chris G.
Yes, I'll help. All right. And you've asked for help and support, and no one's
No, I haven't, because all that I get is submit a pull request or whatever. I don't know, bug report or whatever. Yeah, so I updated them to the latest thing, and I get telemetry loss, telemetry recovered, and I don't get
Oh,
any.
I had that all over mine as well today.
Yeah, and then I rolled it
wonder
back
why
to the
that.
one before that, and then that works.
Did you try deleting all the telemetry and re-finding it?
It's a brand new model.
Which version did you update to? 330 or 321?
I don't know. I'll find out.
And what version's your radio one?
The latest, I think. It was a couple of weeks ago
Okay.
now. So
Yeah, I noticed that because I had a model and I thought it was one of these EP2s with a ceramic antenna. And I thought, oh, I've just installed it in a stupid place on top of the VTX that's getting drowned out. But yeah, I had the same thing, and it was kind of winding me up a bit today.
yeah,
I might look into that. Okay.
yeah. I just rolled back to the one before it, and that works. So, Cole had an interesting one with his Tango. He started getting the new Crossfire receivers, and they wouldn't work with a certain version. He had to then update because he finally built one of the, I sent him one of those kits for the ELRS/Crossfire dongle thing. It's mad. It's good.
Okey-dokey.
Like LDO is making Curry Kitten's brain work in stupid, ingenious ideas, but it's trying to get out and fly with people with the wonderful weather that we're having and everyone being so busy.
It's not that wonderful at the moment, is it?
Here I am. I was going to check and see what version I'm actually running on my modded T-Lite with the internal ELRS. As you were. Yeah, because I was having that today and it was really winding me up. It kept going, oh, lost, recovered. And I was thinking, should I just turn off the telemetry warning? It's not like I care anyway. 321 and 321 on both. Yeah, it doesn't like it. But I flew with something on not 321 and it was perfectly happy. That's curious, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never GitHub slightly terrifies me with the sort of like working professionals of like, I found a bug, and it's like, no, you didn't. You're just not using it properly. You're a moron.
Yeah. You'd be like, I've got a problem. And there's like a flow chart. I found a problem. And then the next stage is go F yourself. And then the bottom, it's like resolved.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I mean,
Yeah,
so much so, I built 2 of them, and just to make sure that I definitely had the problem.
Yeah. All right. I'll give it a good shake and see what happens.
Yeah, but equally, I'm used to devs just telling me to go fuck myself, which is pretty much what Hydra used to do to me. Yeah. It's like, you got to set it manual baud rate. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Stop hitting me. Be
I
nice.
deserved it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's workable. We'll figure something out. Yeah, like I said, I've had the same problem, and I just thought it was my stupid building of jamming the antenna in the wrong place. But if you've had it too, then that's probably worth looking into.
Both
on 321 for me.
I'll stick my neck out a bit, but I am so impressed with the ELRS and its general like ease of, stuff kind of like just working. That annoying thing of your radio's too close to your receiver, free sky bullshit. I've never really sort of like experienced that.
And the price of receivers has gone down. Like, what else in the hobby has actually gotten cheaper in the last 5 years?
Not much. That, talking of GitHub, has just made me go and check my issue I raised yonks ago about Bluetooth not working on Android for a joystick, which says it's resolved now, which I'm going to have to check out.
And I still need to like bug you about coming down and having a go at the backpack because I couldn't get it to work. I mean, it talks to everything. Everything's flashed. It's wired up correctly, but I just don't know how.
But you had the wrong module,
work.
didn't you?
Well, no. I mean, I've got a Boxer now. I've got an internal module.
Oh right, yeah, that should work.
That should have the chipset with it. I think. I don't know. I don't know how to look any of this stuff up.
Yeah,
It's not
I
like
think
there's
it does.
manuals.
Manuals. It's self-documenting. Haven't you heard the developers?
I know. You can come down with the Zorro and like enter my bind phrase, or I'll just set my goggles to your bind phrase.
Isn't there a model loan thing that no one ever uses that's supposed to be super simple? Yeah, it's so super simple. No one has ever done a video on it or showed you how it worked.
Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe we should meet up, like you said, Stephen. Meet up and be like, right, let's spend an hour trying to get this to work. 4 hours later, we haven't.
Well, yeah.
The Discord group.
If we do meet up, I must make one stipulation, Jack, and that's that you bring at least 2 working models with you. You can bring as many unknown quantities with you as you want, but if we meet up, at least 2 models that actually work. Because Jack's kind of go-to plan is arrive at field, give something a cursory check over, realize it's completely screwed, and get his laptop out, then realize all the software on his laptop is out of date and he has to update it on a phone hotspot, then realize he's got problems with his phone hotspot connectivity, walk around waving the laptop and phone hotspot around, and it just goes downhill from there. So,
well, this is Jack and podcasting, isn't it? It's like get podcast set up, make sure it all works, make podcast, take it all out, unplug it, rejig it, plug it all in the wrong way for next week so you can spend time sorting it back out again.
I like unplugging random cables, giving them a good old lick, and then shoving them in wherever.
Let's just rub a bit of Marmite and honey on things because that helps. Yeah. Get some ants involved.
Yep. And also,
how you doing, Chris?
Oh. Hello, Chris G appeared.
Chris G in the house.
Turn in your noise cancellation if you can. It's in settings. There's ever so slight hiss from you. But it's no big deal. It's fine.
So, gyroscopes.
Yeah, Chris.
We were talking about gyroscopes, and the guys were saying, oh, we should be old school. We should have a mechanical gyroscope. And I was like, wait a minute. Aren't gyros all mechanical? Because it relies on detecting movement, and you can't detect movement without some sort of moving mass. And we kind of got to that point. We're wondering maybe if you could illuminate us on this once you've clicked the appropriate clicky thing.
Can he hear us?
Can he hear us?
What's the clicking?
Hello?
Hello, Chris.
Oh.
We can
we
hear
can hear you now. How you doing?
Lovely. Very well.
Yeah, you might want to run over a little bit.
Not very well though.
So, oh yeah, professional podcasting at its finest.
I know.
This is what LVO is all about. I think he's frozen now as well. We nailed this one, Jack.
Maybe I should just call him up and like.
Maybe we're now in officially bonus pod territory at this point.
Maybe he's just sitting very still.
Maybe we could bonus podcast.
He always used to play a game when he was a child, and it was called Not Blinking or Moving. He could do 57 minutes.
He's good at it.
53. Good old Let's Drone out. Chris G right about now would be telling us why flying PWM is great and that you should thoroughly enjoy it.
Well, maybe something for the bonus pod. We should maybe wrap it now then, I guess.
Yeah, and socks are the BMFA's condoms of the feet.
Yeah.
And somewhat birth control, maybe. Socks and saddles.
Well, yeah, I mean...
for enjoying the brambles.
It certainly ensures that people keep their distance, so multi-purpose.
There's a dead noise. Oh no! Panic! Someone say something.
I just imagine
know,
Jack
I was
looking down
hope-
to the desk right now, and he's looking at his own feet with socks and sandals on. He's just like,
I'm not wearing any socks or sandals.
That's where that noise came from.
I'm not wearing anything at all. My little Bob. I don't know.
Goodness,
I
that's
thought
not-
Curry was
yeah,
going to say
little
something
Bob.
witty, and
Hello, Bob. Bob.
I had nothing. I had nothing. I was going to ask if you'd done anything lately.
Hello,
I know
Bob.
Stephen has. I haven't. Have you done anything?
Hello, Bob.
No, like everyone's kind of keeps cancelling. I've got to stick a new chip on this. I have got a bit of an update. I received for my birthday the final 2 batteries that I need for the Battery of Doom.
Ah. How many cells have you made from it?
I now have enough to make a 4-cell, and each one of those cells has got 4 in parallel.
Which is how much? So it's a 4-cell. How much MAR?
I don't want to tell you because they're used vape batteries, so they're all a bit different.
In theory, what's it? If you were reading the labels, how much capacity would you think they
He
have?
loves the belly rub.
They say on there they are 500 milliamp hour.
Right. So in theory, you've got a. You said you put four in
You might get
parallel.
400 out
So
them.
you've got 2,000. Well, a 2 amp 4S battery.
Hello, Chris.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Chris is
Back.
moving.
Hey, Chris.
He's
Please
fixed.
explain to
bad
Stephen. Yeah, please explain to Stephen why he should fly PWM and like it.
Oh, put me on the spot.
Yeah.
It makes you think harder about what you're doing. Are you talking about fixed wing here?
Yes, of course. You are the fixed wing expert.
I mean, obviously you should do it on fixed wing. I mean, is there any other possible way of flying a fixed wing?
Well, you can't get a servo that has its digital interface, so you're stuck, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, what we're suggesting to Stephen is he should fly regular, just connect the servos to the receiver and do it that way. But he seems to be very keen now on putting things in the middle of it, like a flight controller and GPS and cameras. Well, obviously, a camera.
Considering it,
Things like
obviously,
that.
camera.
It won't win you any races. I'll tell you that.
I wasn't
much.
planning on racing.
Depends what you want to do with it. I've got a Nano Goblin with iNav on, and it's great. But everything else fixed wing wise is no flight controller, and I really can't be bothered to put one in.
Or a work
works.
or a working camera.
No. Well, I've got a semi-working camera. This is good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Good
you know,
enough.
you need to give Frank something to do.
Speaking of Frank, did anyone see his write-up in BMFA?
Oh yes, published. Curry,
we have a
you've got. Well, I don't. It comes out in the booklet, which you've got to be.
A
Is anyone
booklet?
joined? Yeah, the magazine, the BMFA magazine.
Why would I
So
get
if you're not a
magazine?
BMFA member already, now is the
I'm a
best
BMFA
possible reason
member.
to join up. Because you get.
Yeah,
But I said
you're-
no to the
Journalist.
magazine. Why would I? Is there not a digital version of it?
No.
Oh.
Digital. Digital? What? What is this digital you speak of?
Fine.
We're talking about digital sandals next. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Okay. I got a digital membership card. It just appears on like Google
Oh.
Wallet and flashes up a little QR code
Yeah.
instead of waiting for the paper one.
Yeah. Okay. So, the BMFA, if you're a member and you haven't ticked the box, you get sent a magazine every so often. And Frank wrote a rough draft. Frank says, please don't read it. I spent about 20 minutes drafting it up, sent it to them to ask for feedback, and whether they had a word count, style guide, or anything. And
they
the
just
first I
published
knew
it.
of the rough draft was being published was turning the page this evening. And apparently Frank just wanted a hole to open up and swallow him. Kind of like Frank's experience of being friends with me. I've been cringing too hard to read it back yet. So, yeah.
That's good, though. He's got nothing to
You
worry
enjoyed
about.
it?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
I mean,
I didn't expect to get the BMFA magazine through and read something in it I actually wanted to read. It was good. It was a win.
Frank
You
can
hear
come
that?
out from his hole.
Frank, there you are.
And I like his
Vindicated.
GDPR friendly picture of me in there as well.
Oh,
Or you
what?
just
Because
a
they
giant
can't tell it's
pixel.
you.
Yeah. Could be anyone
Thoroughly anonymized.
flying an acro what upside down.
I know. Chris, are you proposing to Curry to let you fly the glider of doom?
Yeah, tell me more about this glider. I only managed to get on halfway through. I just saw the tail end of it. It looked interesting.
Well, I flew it fine, and then I handed the radio to an expert to land, and he crashed it, and thus I repaired it, but I haven't flown it again yet, and that's been sitting in my loft for about 2 years now. But it's ready to fly as soon as I put a camera on. But I'm not sure I'm going to pass the radio to anybody else these days because they might crash it again. I have to spend ages repairing it. It's a bit of a pain. It takes about half an hour to put together with the stupid bloody wings go on, and you have to screw those in. And 10 years later, you get to fly it for a while.
So you say he was an expert. What was he an expert in?
He designed the plane,
Okay.
and he had one to test for me, but he managed to stall it coming around the corner. But he's a decent line of sight pilot. I can usually land a plane line of sight when I have to. But I prefer not to. So I gave it to him, and he just went spiral down splat.
What's the make of the plane? Have I heard of it before?
No, it's called a Skyhook.
Okay.
It was. I don't know how many were made. I think really big planes have gone kind of out of fashion, haven't they? Because you can get really quite compact planes that can fly for like an hour, and you just put, INAV on them, and you can send them away for a long distance and fly them for a long time, and quite happy without all this hassle that you used to do in like long range FPV. Was like let's get a really big plane so we can put lots of lipos in it and launch it. Now it's kind of like let's get a small plane and put some lions in it, and it goes for. I mean, how long does your micro goblin go for?
About an hour.
40 minutes. Yeah, an hour. Yeah.
On
What,
28650s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, because you fly at FPV and you're looking at your INAV return to home. It's loitering around me now. It's only 30 meters up. I'll just take my goggles off and have a look at it. And then you're like, where is it? I can hear it. I can't see anything. And there's this tiny, tiny little dot just going around. And it's only about 30 meters away. So that is one argument for the big planes.
Competent spotter knows exactly where it is, though.
Of course.
Yes, definitely.
I was flying that in a field one time. First time I've flown there. Some guy came over on a bike claiming that he was a farmer and that he owned the land, and that he was spending last week here shooting other people's drones out of the sky, which is interesting. And he's like, "Oh no, you can't
call the police and check that."
And then when he sees the plane in the air, he goes, "Oh, that's a plane. Oh, that's fine then. That's different. Oh, crack on, mate. No problem." So that was an odd experience, but all turned out all right.
Worrying.
Planes aren't seen as evil as quads.
Yeah.
Still, even to the general public, even if you've got like cameras on them and stuff. We don't know why.
Well, planes are nice. You go on holiday in them, and you have a friendly pilot, and You know, you clap when they land.
Yeah.
You know,
Depends
big
what
difference.
airline you're flying on. But
Yeah, true.
some of them you might clap when you land.
Yeah.
I think you
Um,
definitely have enough space to fly that at Hidden Valley if it wasn't too bad weather.
Yeah, it's a big bugger. That's it. That's my two problem planes. My other one is my FX-79 wing, the disaster plane that launched, blew up, launched, blew up, launched, flew, and then the autopilot blew up. That was fun.
Yeah. Stephen, you need to. You just need. I know PWM scares you, and it's a bit weird, but you just please come along for the journey. Appreciate it.
Servos are your friends.
I just
Jack,
had,
make that T-shirt.
I will.
I've had so much just weirdness with servos, mainly on cars where they just sort of lock up and jam, and just kind of
Yeah,
trust
well,
them too much.
cars take a hell of an abuse. Like you can't, like use a RC car and expect it to last very long. They strip it out, they snap, they crash into stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they've all got kind of sacrificial joints between the servo and the steering, so it shouldn't, if you tension the steering, it should just, slip and not push the servo around and strip it. But yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
I'll give it a go. It's one of those things, space and patience. Like I can just test a quad and take it off and buzz around, and planes seem to be this whole rigmarole, but I'll get there in the end.
CG, man, it's all about the CG. That's what I've
You say
learned.
that, I think you forget your little test hover with your new quad went, and off it
That
went.
was exciting, yeah. Garden rake and pulling out of a bush.
Yeah. All right, should we call it there? We might do a bonus pod. Curry's probably got to go, but
I can try and diagnose
we
this ELRS issue.
yeah, tune in to the bonus pod. Watch me trying to diagnose the problem. Let Chris G teach us the ways of the socks and sandals. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. This podcast is supported by our lovely, wonderful Patreons. They're scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Don't forget, there's also a Patreon tier where we say your name and thank you at the beginning of every show on the recorded thing. So if you're just a podcast audio listener, the reason why it's been cleaned up and is somewhat bearable to listen to, and the bits of dead air have been cut out by the wonderful editor. These people right here are the reasons why.
Thank you, wonderful Patreons.
The wonderful people we mentioned at the start of the show. Tonight you've been joined by everyone's favourite moustache, Stephen.
Hello.
Everyone's favourite Curry, Kitten.
Goodbye.
Our LDO fixed wing expert, Chris G.
See you next time.
G-Dog. And I am Brian Slowfly. Thank you and good night. Bye.